Hello everyone, welcome to Jump Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet that's actually a secret democratic debate. I'm your candidate Will, and joining me this week, Ills.
I don't know what to say. I'm breaking under pressure.
And Saf.
I didn't get enough followers to partake in this debate. I feel so upset.
Get off the stage. That is, I can see why Ills did not have time to prep, because normally he at least has the Brandon buffer, as we like to refer to it. But that's gone. It's just three of us this week.
Mercy and Brandon have to atone for their sins for what the fuck they did last week.
Yeah, I mean, they did us dirty.
They did us real dirty.
Because, I mean, I was there. And, I don't know.
You were very angry at them. I don't know how to think
Wasn't I? Yeah.
At the top of the podcast, want to address that I'm recording in a different place. There are dogs around. If you hear that, that's what's happening. And Ills, there's construction going on outside, but that's the nature of the business.
Damn it.
So, pardon any background noise. But all that being said, how have your guys' 2 weeks been since we've been on a podcast together?
Living.
What? No, I was here last week. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, but neither of us were.
Yeah.
You're the one constant.
I don't care how you guys were.
Well, Saf?
I was fine. I was enjoying my
Great.
time.
Let me tell you, as Musamil noted last week, sometimes when you sit down in a podcast and you look at the news for the week, you say, this is an easy mode. Nintendo did a 25-minute Mario Maker Direct. I'm just going to read off a list. No problem. This time, we're going to have to do a little bit more work because there's not quite as much news. We might go back to the hype list. We might have some other things that we're going to do. But let's get to the news that there is. And I want to go first to talk about a rising star of sorts in terms of game genres. Neither of you may have ever heard of this, but the rise of the auto chess style of video game.
I have heard of this. You mentioned this in another podcast, and we talked about it a little briefly.
A little bit. But it's this thing where, because I'll give a brief little backstory still. Around January this year, Dota 2, popular free-to-play MOBA game, there was a mod for it called Dota Auto Chess. Turns out, I learned this more recently, was based off of an old Warcraft 3 mod that was around Pokemon. But it became, but it became very popular, and sort of the whole idea is, on a very basic level, is you buy units, put them out there, you level them up by getting 3 of a kind, and putting similar units together, and then you have them face other people's teams, and you don't control anything, you just watch it play out. But it got like 6 million players in 2 months. Big success. And now, all in the span of 1 week, the creators of the mod now have their own game. Valve now put out their own version. And Riot Games, just out of nowhere with the steel chair, has their own League of Legends version of Auto Chess. So we went from 1 mod to 3 full games in the span of 7 days.
That's
So wait.
pretty
So-
fucking bananas.
All you do is just pick 3 guys, hope they combine to
No.
be powerful, and then...
So, okay, so we'll go a little more into it.
Alright.
So basically, every round you get money, right? And
Yeah.
with that money, you can either save it, and if you have more money, you get more interest, which means you can have more money later on, or you can use it to buy units. And if you buy
Alright.
units, each of them will have unique abilities. In Dota Auto Chess, it was using the abilities of the actual characters in the game. But you would set them on your field, and then after like 10 seconds of prep, it would put you randomly against one of 7 other players. And they would face off, and if you lose your player HP, and if you reach 0, then you die.
Okay.
And then if you got 3 of the same kind, they would combine into a stronger unit, stuff like that. But I think it's interesting because, like I said, there is a gold rush of sorts happening with auto chess right now, because seemingly all 3 of them are doing well, right?
Mhm.
Because all of them launched at the same time. But Valve is a company that certainly has a history of mods, right? Counter-Strike is a mod of Half-Life originally.
Mm-hmm.
Dota is a mod of Warcraft 3, and then now this is a mod of Dota. But I think it's interesting when companies are able to like leverage that and make it into a part of their game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting when they follow the community's lead and like actually put their weight behind it. It's an interesting thing to happen. I don't know. I don't have that much to say about it because I've seen it, very briefly. But just as an idea, it's pretty. I don't want to say interesting again, but whatever.
And the other thing I think is interesting about it is that we see gold rushes happen with new genres, right? One game will come out, it'll have a big thing. Suddenly, everyone and their mother is trying to make this, right? Mm-hmm. We saw it with Battle Royale last year PUBG, and then Fortnite was getting in on that gold rush, and then after Fortnite, everyone was, right?
Yeah. Right.
And MOBAs were that too after League and Dota got so huge. And so, I guess we can mention this as sort of a way to tie it in. There was the very first direct follow-up by the company Niantic that made Pokemon Go came out this week as well. The Hogwarts Wizards Unite, I think is what it is. The official title is a Harry Potter Pokemon Go. Instead of catching Pokemon, you catch a hippogriff and I guess an owl. I don't know a lot of the lore.
You catch animals from the fucking
yeah. I think that's sort of what the implication is. But you work for Hogwarts either way. It's very much Pokemon Go. There are Poke stops, but they're wizard stops. It's everything else. But it's not launching with Pokemon Go numbers. It's a sixth of what Pokemon Go had in its first week, right? Which is still 4 million players. But for Hogwarts and for the first game after Pokemon Go, that's less than what you maybe would have thought it would be. And so just sort of that thing of is there a certain time frame that you're making a game and you're man, it's been 8 months since it first blew up? Should you just give up? Is there a moment that you can truly miss when these types of new genres show up, basically?
It's hard to say, because you mentioned PUBG and Fortnite, but you missed out Lawbreakers, which also tried to jump on the bandwagon, but I guess they must have done it too soon, because that one failed.
Lawbreakers?
Yeah.
Or are you thinking of whatchamacallit? Radical Heights, which was by the same people?
Wait, what was Lawbreakers supposed to? Oh, was that supposed to be an Overwatch?
Cliffy B's game that he spent years on that was supposed to be sort of Titanfall or TF2 or something like that. And then that game didn't do well, and so they made Radical Heights in 4 months, and it didn't do well. And then the company closed down.
Yes.
But yeah, but you bring up that, right, as an example of they rushed too fast to the market, right? Their game was barely functional, and everyone's well, we're not going to play this. Fortnite exists,
Yeah.
Well, I think there's definitely a gold rush, and I think the problem with the Harry Potter clone of it is that it doesn't really make sense. Well, from what you've described to me of it, it doesn't really make sense within the world of it. They're never really catching monsters or anything. That's not what the brand is built on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where Pokemon Go is kind of it makes sense. It's part of what makes Pokemon. You're going around finding these monsters, as you normally would in a Pokemon game, but you're finding them in real life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely an appeal to it that makes logical sense from where it's coming from.
Yeah. And like you said, I think that's part of it is that is there if there's already a pre-existing identity for a franchise, making it adapt to that other to a new genre can be difficult, right? And Pokemon, it immediately makes sense.
And it feels disingenuous.
Yeah.
It feels like a cash grab.
Yeah. And Dota, because it was there as the mod originally, it doesn't feel as much. Or even League, because League and Dota are often, viewed hand in hand. And so but I just think it's interesting that you have these games sort of fair play to Valve and especially to Riot for having a 5-month turnaround. It wasn't they knew what this thing was at the start of this year, and here we are in June, and they work. They're functional. They're they have some quality of life improvements that are better than the original mod makers because
obviously, yeah,
they have bigger teams. But I think it was just interesting to notice that.
Yeah, it's certainly something to keep an eye on. The industry keeps going through these phases. So if auto chess really does blow up to be the next big thing, it's something to look forward to or something to look at.
I don't think just because Wizards Unite failed I don't think it necessarily means that that's going to be the end of AR or augmented reality type games.
Sure. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because it could still thrive. They could still put out something, and they would just hit. Maybe not as successful as Pokemon Go, but still be successful enough to still have other people jump in on it.
Well, it's only been out like a week, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's gonna be like a week and a half.
Yeah,
so I mean, and they only have like what 4 million?
Yeah, but Pokemon
So,
Go had like
I don't know if I
32
would-
million.
Yeah, but Pokemon is a singular franchise. It's very popular. It's already a video game franchise. It's already very established. Like I said, it makes sense within the context.
It's playing in the same space.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it'll take longer to launch, to get big. Maybe it'll find its footing at some point. Who knows?
Yeah. And I guess part of the reason I was surprised was because I thought that there would be more Pokemon Go people trying to rip it off sooner, right?
Yeah.
But when I thought about it, it's one of those things that's like truly like the reason that Niantic was able to make Pokemon Go is because they had all the satellite data from Ingress, which was their game before.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that's very hard to replicate if you don't have that already like working, right? Like you can't be like, okay, let's just figure out how to have a map of the entire world and automatically notice places of note where people travel and mark them. Like that's a big ask, you can't just like throw that together in a weekend and try to catch the gold rush, which is I guess why it took so long for even Niantic to follow it up, because they were also supporting Pokemon Go after the fact. But yeah, it'll be interesting. In other news that is interesting / weird, in a segment we're just going to call That's Politics, Baby. We have video games on Capitol Hill. We normally don't talk about politics because it's a draining nightmare. But
True.
Directly tying into video games this week, we had a moment that just gets clowned on a lot, but I think is worth having a larger discussion about. I forget her exact position. An individual from EA was speaking in front of Congress about a loot box bill that's been introduced, essentially going into potential regulation of loot boxes and monetization in games.
Yeah.
And they were asking, hey, do you consider loot boxes to be ethical? And like, I mean, what's she gonna say? Like, no, we think they're super scummy too. Like, come on. But her thing was like, no, we like to view it much like a Kinder Egg or toys that children already enjoy all across the world at Targets like yours. A surprise mechanic. They're a surprise mechanic. Which everyone said, come on, what are you talking about? And so like, I guess before we get into the further implications of this actual bill itself, do you think that like they are drinking the Kool-Aid on this, or is this just them on the public side of things? Like, do you think that like internally at EA, they're like, no, call them surprise mechanics. They're not immoral. We're making nice games.
I think they're trying to emulate Kellyanne Conway when she coined the term like fake news or no alternative facts. Sorry, alternative facts. Like, this is exactly...
Those are big words to be putting in EA's mouth to be comparing them to...
I don't know.
They're just protecting their revenue stream. I mean, come on. I'm sure they make a ton of money from this kind of monetization, so...
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing I think is interesting. Sorry, I'll cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but it's kind of obviously kind of gambling, right? I mean, you're sort of preying on people for, all these... that dopamine hit that you get from every time you purchase one of these things. You never know what you're gonna get. It's kind of a shitty practice. I don't really like it.
And I think it's interesting because I mean we've had moments in the past of video games as an industry choosing to self-regulate to avoid formal government regulation. Right. That's why ESRB exists.
Hang on,
stuff like that.
Sorry, aren't Kinder Eggs banned in the US?
I think that's because kids were worried about kids eating plastic, not necessarily like the surprise toy element.
Because that would be so fucking hilarious if they were actually banned.
Yeah.
But isn't like the ESRB like hilariously toothless? Like, don't they?
I mean, yes.
Do nothing.
But it was the games industry saying, okay, but we're going to avoid this, right? Like, we're going to put something in place, and they haven't really done that with loot boxes. Like there has been talks about legislation for 2 years now, basically, right?
Yeah.
Right.
When one of the very first episodes of this podcast, we talked about how there was a representative, I think from New Hampshire, because Brandon was excited, who mentioned wanting to regulate loot boxes.
Yeah.
But like you said, Ills, especially with stuff like FIFA, My Team, and with Madden stuff, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars off this stuff.
Right.
And so, like, they weren't making money off necessarily, like, selling violence in video games, right? Like, Mortal Kombat kind of did, but it was it wasn't like a literal we're making money the more violent this game is. The more scummy the loot boxes are, the more money they're making. And so they don't want to regulate. But like that, I mean, that's a potential problem point because, I mean, you know, it's a long bill. I haven't read all of it, but it is clearly written by people that don't have a full, deep understanding of the video game industry. And it would be stepping on toes in ways that I think would be more harmful to the game developers than if there was just if they was able to actually start to self-regulate in some way, you know?
Well, I think anytime an industry tries to self-regulate, it always becomes a half measure. It's always to, you know, placate the people who are asking for reform. Yeah, it never goes as far as it needs to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's what you expect, really. Like, of course, they're asking to self-regulate because, you know,
they have more control over it.
That means they're not going to do anything meaningful.
Yeah.
It's them it's not them trying to fix the problem, it's them trying to avoid.
Yeah, of course.
Basically,
the issue. But yeah, so I mean, but that was just a thing that's like there was a lot of funny memes, but also there was like another like, oh, like we're gonna like it's gonna be a weird moment for a lot of video games that like are, you know, will be actively in development if this bill passes, that are gonna have to completely reassess what they're doing, and then, you know, that potentially messes with all of the mobile market, you know, like so many rely upon that, so it'll have some weird ramifications in the coming months, and like, you know, I don't think
is it just loot boxes or is it microtransactions in general?
I think it is like pulling from a thing and not knowing what you're getting, essentially, right? So like, I mean, so it would include stuff like Fire Emblem Heroes, where you just, you know, you pull you press the different orbs and you see what hero you get, right? It would seemingly affect stuff like that too. Which will be interesting, right? Because it's that thing of like, you then lose all nuance of like some games do it in more and less aggressive ways, right?
Yeah.
And like stuff like that's gone when it just becomes purely legislated like this.
Well, I mean, they could legislate it in a way where that nuance is kept intact. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to, you know, be a draconian law that, you know, outlaws all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which would be the hope, right? I imagine among the industry it would be the hope, because, but you would be, you know, you're putting your fate in someone who doesn't know your industry's hands. Which is why I think that, like, I don't know if there's a lot of people that are kicking themselves for them having not done something earlier, but I feel like I would be.
Yeah, like, I know, like, the UK was the one that announced as well, like, a couple of years ago that they were going to investigate it, but they've not said anything about what they're planning with this, whether or not they want to class as gambling or not.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
I mean, there are already countries like Belgium where I think Fire Emblem Heroes was one of them. They get pulled from their shelves or from their storefronts because of the bills they passed there. So, you know, who knows where they'll go from there. I mean, this is obviously US-centric news because it's US Congress, but anyways, speaking of US-centric news, and this is a weird one because we're out of our depth. Please be excited. Currently looming trade war with the United States and China potentially coming down the pipe. We don't know.
We're going full politics, huh?
Yeah, I know, but what we got out of this was a official statement. The mythical triumvirate, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, made a statement all together on something, which was about said potential tariffs on electronics, up to 25% on all electronics coming in from China. Because of all this, you know, rigmarole that's happening. And essentially being like, hey, we have consoles coming out next year. We're gonna be fucked if things are 25% more expensive.
Oh,
right?
Man. Fucking gamers rise up. Stop it.
This is it. It made me laugh. It was
this
like,
is the moment.
There's so many things to potentially be mad about in the world, but it was funny to see this thing where everyone's like, whoa, what?
It's affecting something I care about?
I know. Yeah, that is sort of the vibe. But yeah, they sort of said, like, you know, there could be potentially up to, like, I forget, they gave a specific number. It would be almost, the true cost, an estimated $840 million, would be shifted almost entirely to consumers. The end result would likely put a new video game console out of reach for many American families this holiday season.
$599 US. Get ready.
They're bringing back the memes.
Oof.
And so, yeah, I mean, we'll see where the deadlines go. The proposed deadline was June 24th. We're past that now for rebuttals to the tariffs. So we'll see from there. I mean, another dumb little super minor thing, but like having a console come out in election year is actually a big problem for console makers because ad space gets super expensive on TV and online.
All right, yeah.
And so it's just next year's consoles, we're already getting into it. The weird little details of like the outside world encroaching on our dumb little video games and being like, well,
no, dear mercy.
We'll see how it goes.
It's just fucking cancel the election. Give me my
true.
phone.
Why do these video games have to be so political?
The Americans will make the true voting decision by buying either an Xbox Scarlet or a PS5. That's the real decision.
I can't wait for PS5 to endorse Bernie.
He has
We're doing it, boys.
That'll be. I'm looking forward to that being a town hall question. Which console are you buying?
Oh God.
Well, Bernie's on Switch now, so I mean, he has to know.
That's true. So then outside of that,
Twitch. I meant Twitch.
That's fine. We have. Let's do one other little thing. And this may be a shorter podcast this week. We'll play it by ear. But let's bring back the hype list.
Fuck. I mean, come on. 2 weeks in a row. You're putting me through this again.
We won't do it as long this time. Also, does anyone have the hype list? Does anyone have it written down?
Oh my god. I can pull it up, I think.
While we vamp, let me explain what the hype list is. Introduced last week by Muzamil without my foresight. He was like, hey, we have the list for those who for those who are out there, for games that are already out. And then now we are going to make a list for games that are coming out. We listed all of Nintendo's currently announced games. I guess we'll just have to have another paste bin that you can follow along below.
You can try.
Sorry, Brandon.
I posted it in the Discord.
All right.
Cool.
So I'll quickly do a run through of this. All Nintendo games as of right now. Number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Number 2, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Number 3, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Number 4, Astral Chain. 5, Luigi's Mansion. 6, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. 7, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. 8, No More Heroes 3. 9, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. 10, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. 11, Dragon Quest 11S. I'm still upset. And 12, Daemon X Machina. Whew.
I'm very upset.
Yeah.
Out of breath.
Why are you upset?
Daemon X Machina shouldn't be that low. Come on, man.
That's what I said.
Oh yeah, Saf. I was mad more at Dragon Quest. Saf's more mad at Daemon. That was your game of the show back in 2018, right?
Yeah.
Saf? That was your shout out. I don't know if it was your game of the show, but it was the thing you shouted out. But
Looks super cool.
But this week, I would like. Will we do another publisher? The thing is, no publishers have as many announced games as Nintendo has right now. You know that. Because of next gen, basically, obviously. So I thought, why not give a shout out? We mentioned this in the E3 episode. Not a ton of games got demos this year at E3, so we could actually get impressions of what they're like. So why not give a shout out to 3 of those games that got demos and check where our hype is for them.
Yes.
And we'll do chronologically, I guess, when we saw them at E3. First up, opened up EA's thing. The only thing that, frankly, I think a lot of people watched from EA's show this year. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, hey.
Yeah,
this is a pretty game.
It's a pretty game.
I liked it. I mean, the combat looked a little bit slow, but
yeah.
Overall, I mean, the movement, the environments look good. I saw some the AT-AT action that looked pretty sweet.
Yeah,
there's one that I feel like the demo. Every time that every person that played it at E3 seemingly said, "Hey, the demo didn't quite show the full breadth of this game. Like it is faster than it looks, and there's you could do more than what is apparent here." Which is, I mean, good to hear, but also I would have liked to have seen that, right. you could have shown that better.
But I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple of good shots that I liked from the demo itself, like stopping the laser mid blast and just sending the guy towards it. That seemed pretty cool. But I
did enjoy it.
But it's got the brand of EA on it, and it's there's something that's gonna go wrong with this. I have a feeling.
Oh, it's so funny to me how they're using their own bad reputation to try to push this game.
Yeah.
Where it's don't worry guys, no season passes, no loot boxes, no microtransactions. And it's You can't do that when you're the ones that are being the dicks about it. Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Old Stig knows how to make a good video game, but where do we want to put it on the list?
I would put it. Damn, I don't know. I would put it maybe below Link's Awakening. Seems like a graveyard for a lot of games, but
yeah, it's rough. I was thinking maybe above No More Heroes 3.
I'm more excited for No More Heroes, to be honest.
Yeah, even though it's just a trailer or teaser, I have more excitement for No More Heroes 3 than I do this game. Personally.
Okay.
Maybe
would you
below
put it
No More
Link's
Heroes
Awakening?
Given
Or would you put
the
it?
problem with this list is that I would put it below David X. But it's
Okay.
But would you put it above? I mean, below Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3?
yeah, I would put it above Marvel Ultimate 3. I put it below David X. I shouldn't. Do I even? This list is a mess.
It's time to have a
Sad
re-rank,
as
I guess.
Look more to the. We're having constant reruns.
I mean, as long as it's in the bottom, below Link's Awakening, I can only be happy because this is just. I don't know what I want to prioritize here in regards to hype. Like, it looks cool.
Well, I'm gonna interrupt Saf and say that I'm willing to put it below Link's Awakening.
Okay.
So that you don't have to make
Thank
the
you.
Sophie's choice.
Thank you. It looks cool, but it doesn't look as cool as the other two games that I want to.
Okay, so there we go. That's one. The next one that we had. Can you remember? Can you remember the demos that we got at any conferences?
Yes. Actually, no. Did we get them for this one? Final Fantasy 7?
Which one? That is later on.
Never mind.
Chronologically, we got the one thing that Bethesda had, besides some cool trailers, Doom Eternal.
Yes, I am very excited.
I am too. Doom 2016 is super good. And I mean, this in some ways looks like more of that, but like in the best ways, you know? Like, they're just adding elements that you're like, oh, this really fits the type of game that you've proven you can make, you know? Like the grappling hook, the new weapons.
The flamethrower.
Yeah.
Giant
They made
sword.
a fast-paced action shooter game faster, which is, like, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Simply put.
How do we feel about where we want to put it, though?
I want to put it at number 4, above Astro Chain.
You know, I'm down.
That's where I would put it.
Saf, where are you feeling?
I was going to put it above the Three Houses.
Well, get more.
I think I would put it above. See, the problem is, once again, I hit the thing that Saf mentioned before. I would put Luigi's Mansion above Astral Chain.
Get the fuck out of here with
I know, Ills.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'll stick with it at number 4. Also, here's the thing. It's like we know a date for it, you know? And I think for me, like, if a thing is close and like I have a day in my mind that I know I can play it, I'm willing to give it bonus points, you know?
Oh, good. Then Breath of the Wild 2 should be at the bottom.
No, listen, that's a small factor. You know, in one way or the other. It's not the only
aside
factor.
from maybe Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is kind of like a bit of a tough one. Like, I feel so like Doom doesn't, like, it has a new multiplayer game, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't, like, in terms of, like, the single player, I didn't feel as though, like, it does a lot differently. It gives you more of the same, but they evolve on that, but it doesn't, like, give it, like, anything fresh well, it doesn't give it anything as fresh as the other games that are on the list when it comes to, like, single player content. That's why I wanted to put it above Fire Emblem.
I mean, Luigi's Mansion is very much just a Luigi's Mansion that looks very good,
Well,
right?
Same thing for Ori, same thing for Fire Emblem.
But I haven't actually played Ori.
Link's Awakening, of course.
I haven't actually played Ori, but I feel so like
just picture any Metroidvania game, and you've seen Ori. It's just really, really good.
But with
it's a very well executed. Yeah. What's your
yeah, I was just thinking. I just missed it. Never mind. I lost the trail of thought. Sorry.
All right, that's fine. You're okay, Saf. So what I will let's see. And then the last one, not next to last one, excuse me, because we do have 4. We have. Do you remember Ubisoft had this one?
Watch Dogs
Legion. Play as the grandma.
Oh yeah.
I mean, walking into this E3, I would have put Watch Dogs really low.
At the
But that
bottom.
demo looked really good.
That demo was fun.
It was, yeah. And it was one where, like, you know, that I feel like I both can and cannot envision what that game will be like, you know? Like, you're like, you know what an open world game is, but, like, it'll be very wild to, like, see, like, how story plays out in that game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the idea that, like, there is no one player character, does that mean that it's going to suffer in the story department as a result? Does that mean that they'll figure out ways to make it be more unique to whatever character you're doing? I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I have a good feeling about the overarching, story about it. Like, I just like the idea of that, like, organization is all, like, very loosely aligned, but they're all working toward the same goal. It's very
I personally am kind of like story doesn't bother me because they tried a series story with the first one and it was shit, but they went a little bit more crazy with the second one and it was actually pretty good. And I hope they kind of like lean into more of the second style, like storytelling, the goofiness, yeah.
And also, I mean, it seems cool that they put thought into like each recruitable characters, like strengths and weaknesses, and things you would use them for.
Definitely.
I forget his name, but the guy that they said is one of the technical directors for this game is I forget what he worked on, but he has a reputation for being able to like do systems really well of just like branching, like basically like being able to load up a world and have like give like little traits to every little NPC to help have branching storylines and have that work well. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, like so like clearly it's not just an idea. They have people on the tech side of things that are well suited to making this type of idea work.
That's neat.
Right.
So where would you like to put it?
I don't know.
Above Astral Chain?
The fuck out of here. Above Astral Chain? The fuck?
I don't know if I would put it that high, Zach.
Come on.
I would put it below Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I think I was looking at a similar thing. Because the thing is, Watch Dogs 2, I liked a lot more than Watch Dogs 1, but I wouldn't say it like plays incredibly well. Like there was a lot of neat stuff. But in that way, I think that like I'm very interested to see what the game has in store, but I'm not expecting to be like, oh man, this is the best playing video game I played this year. Where like with Doom, there's a non-zero chance that that's the case, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I
and I think it's important to clarify that this is the hype list, not the actual how good the game actually is going to be. It's just like what we think it's going to be. And sure. I'm kind of like I rarely get excited for open world games, and
it reminds me of Saints Row the Third, and like how you could just do some crazy goofy shit, or even Saints Row 4 as well. And there's like that type of fun. It gets me excited a lot. That's why I'm super hyped for this one, because like you can be really stupid and do some really insane shit, and it's gonna be great.
Well, Seth, I respect your opinion, but it's number 9.
I don't respect your opinion.
Oh my god.
And then finally, the last one. We'll see how long this one goes. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Wait, oh yeah, they do have a date for it. Fuck. Shit.
It's within a week of Watch Dogs. It's very close.
I will put it at number 2, to be honest.
Yeah.
Same. Okay. We want to talk about the game, I guess? We've talked about it before. Little follow-ups, I guess, of note. They mentioned that there will be stuff from the... What's the word for it? The compilation? The whole collection. The extended universe,
basically, yeah. Which, serious doubt has been flooding into my mind. I can't. I don't know. I just don't want to see Genesis. If I see one thing say Loveless, I'm gonna check out of the game.
There's a non-zero chance. That may not happen in this game, but it could happen down the line. That's apparently what those ghost dudes were something from the outside universe.
I'm just happy with the idea of more Turks. The Turks were pretty cool in that game.
You know what? I am actually very down for that. The Turks are very cool. I would love to see more of them, actually. But yeah, I mean, this is a game that's like, it's both very much a known quantity at this point, but like, there's still, I think, going to be some questions that I have, and I think that's actually good for hype a little bit. You know, sometimes it's fun to have the like, what's gonna be part of the stuff in this game.
Yeah, but there's already so much to look forward to, like building this world as a fully realized world. To have to add in like stuff from like, the garbage, extra games that weren't really all that good story wise. Yeah, I don't know. I wish they would just take this game and like if they're gonna build on it from there, not use the past stuff. What the fuck is the point? I don't need
You could
that.
maybe take it as inspiration, the ideas of like, hey, like let's give Zach a little bit more backstory.
Yeah.
Like something like that would be cool.
No, I was gonna say I like the gameplay of Crisis Core, but and the fact that they fleshed out Sephiroth's character a little bit more, but they didn't really link Sephiroth and Zack together as much as I would have liked. So if they did that in this game and cut out the extra characters like fucking Angel and Genesis or whatever the fuck, that would have been a lot better to me.
Yeah.
And concise.
And maybe, who knows? We'll just have to see how they execute it,
and
right?
There's a lot of characters there that you can work with as well and expand upon. Like, we mentioned it previously. I don't know if you mentioned on the podcast, like, Biggs, Wedge, and fucking Jesse are over there. You can, like, add more to their characters and make them feel more
sympathetic
or, like, endearing.
They actually seem like characters now. Before they were just kind of like, they were just there.
So hopefully it skews more on that side of things and less on the Genesis side of things. So that is all the games that got demos at E3. It was easier than you would think when you make a sentence like to rank them all. Before we get into
wait, we should all pick one to re-rank.
Oh no. I don't think. Well, do you want to do that?
I mean, we can give it a shot.
All right. This is going to get spiteful. This is a list that is living in spite.
What? It's not spiteful. I'm not. All right, man.
I mean, I'm going to re-rank.
To be honest with you, I was genuinely dancing between 1 and 2 for a remake. Like, I was sitting there going, shit, do I like it more than Breath of the Wild 2? There's a lot of cool shit in Final Fantasy 7 that gets me excited, but there's also some that gets me questions. Like, that was racing through my mind. Yeah. So I'm really down for, like, either 1 or 2. Like, I'm happy for either one of those two positions.
Okay. Well, I think I'm cool with 2 because like you said, there are questions right now with FF7 that I'm like, are they going to be good? Where with Breath of the Wild, it's like I just want to know anything. Yeah. Like I'm seemingly down for whatever they're going to show us. Knock on wood, who knows? That might eat those words later. But so I think for the things that were ranked today, before we get into potentially re-ranking, FF7 Remake comes in at number 2. Doom Eternal comes in at number 5. We have Watch Dogs Legion at number 10, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at number 13, out of a total list of 16. Do you want to re-rank anything?
Yeah, Demon X Machina.
Okay, what do you want to do with Demon X Machina?
I want it above No More Heroes 3.
Oh, really?
I'm happy with that.
Why do you think it should be above No More Heroes 3? I don't know if I would put it above Link's Awakening.
Oh my god. The thing that I always come back to with Link's Awakening is that it's the same game.
Yeah.
It's
but I played
beat
the
by
Daemon
beat
X...
the same game.
Like, for me, I played the Daemon X Machina demo. I'm happy that they took feedback and that they're improving on things, right? But it is still a thing that I played it and I was like, there's still work to be done. Assuming they're doing the work, but until I get my hands on it again, I can't say definitively, hey, I'm like super hyped for this game. I'm interested, right? Where with Link's Awakening, like I'm in. Like I know what that game is on that other side of that coin, and I know I'm going to have a good time.
For me, like looking at the treehouse, it's given me like quite a good amount of faith in the game itself. But although I don't know, because like the demo itself did make an impression. It's like it's not that great. The gameplay, especially with like the camera and being able to target enemies properly. But like seeing them address that specifically on the treehouse, it's like, look, we know what's happening. We'll solve that problem, and we'll continue to try and fix all these issues. That gives me a lot more faith, and I do feel as though I feel as though it's like I'm more excited about it than I would be of No More Heroes 3.
I would go back and forth between No More Heroes and Daemon X Machina, but I mean, it makes sense that there's been some issues. So, and to the Link's Awakening point, I mean, yeah, it's a guaranteed good time, and I'm not gonna fight you on that, obviously, because I love Link's Awakening. But I mean, at least it's something new, and I feel like hype-wise, something new always beats something old.
Sure. I mean, if I mean, it seems like you guys are both pretty determined on this. So whether
Hype-wise, only hype-wise, something new beats something old.
Sure. Okay, and that's fair. That's an important caveat we should remind ourselves of often. So would you put it above or below No More Heroes? I mean, I would put it below because I think No More Heroes, there's a lot they can do on an HD game for the first time for that series.
Yeah, but they also said they're going to stick to motion controls a bit, so that kind of has me a little bit worried. I don't know.
I imagine that they'll do a little
motion controls worked fine in No More Heroes.
Yeah, but I was hoping for them to expand it a bit more.
Right, okay.
Like, not necessarily be tied to motion controls. I was hoping for them to, go maybe a little bit more traditional, but have the combat be a little bit more demanding.
All right, no, I know what you're
saying. A little bit more intricate.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it just put a limiter on the skill ceiling, right?
Yeah,
it feels like. I mean, it's weird because they had pro controller support for 2, right, or whatever. There were ways I remember to play it that weren't with the motion controls, but I don't know how that'll work necessarily, or if that'll exist period in 3. But I mean, also I know that people's feelings on Travis Strikes Again are mixed, right? But a thing that I did like was that the game was basically a story of Suda51 sort of talking himself back up into giving it one more shot. It was like, hey, I used to be this big deal. I went to live sort of in the woods and make these weird side things, and then being like, no, I should go be the guy again. I should go try it one last time. And I think that to me shows that he has a level of personal interest that I'm excited for.
Back together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, under's fine.
Okay. All right. So there we go. So that would be moving Daemon X Machina from number 16 up to number 12. Puts my poor Dragon Quest.
I put it in the Google Doc.
Well, our wonderful host, do you want to rank a game?
I mean, I would like to make a small case for Dragon Quest.
Here, I'll make a... here's the thing I'll say about Dragon Quest. I was saving... I did not buy Dragon Quest for the PlayStation 4 or the 3DS, simply because I wanted to see what the Switch version was. I've tried to avoid...
And you were right to wait.
I was totally right to wait. They have so much cool shit that's added to this game. They have all the features of the... Sorry.
No,
I was going to say they have all the features of the 3DS version, and they have almost the graphics of the PS4 version, and they have orchestral music. It's pretty awesome, and I can't wait to play that game.
A lot of the problems that there's a lot of problems fixed, and there's a lot of things that are new, right? And this is not just a port, and I think that's the thing that's cool about it. I've said it before, and I've said it again, but I think the thing that's also cool is that all that stuff is there while you can have the guarantee of, the core base game is still very good, right? You still have one of my favorite casts I've had in a RPG in a while. You still have a combat system I think is really good, and a story that I think is very charming and engaging. But I was going to do the post game stuff for the PS4 version, and I stopped because I thought there's so much here that is new, so that it is essential. I mean, it is like a 1.5 almost in terms of just there's just a whole 2D map in here that if you were in the West, you never got to play, right? And a bunch of other stuff like that. Like I said, I mean, it is, as Ilsis noted, not an entirely new game, and so that does change hype perceptions, to be sure. But I would like it maybe above Star Wars, but below Link's Awakening, if I were to personally rank.
Personally, I feel like Dragon Quest looks more impressive than Star Wars. I mean, so far. So okay. I'd be fine with that.
I could rank it higher than Star Wars.
All right. Thank you for we've raised some grievances, and I'm sure that Brandon and Moose are going to be very pissed when they look at the list in a little bit.
We're all about building bridges here.
Yeah,
fixing the mistakes.
But I guess Saf, Ills did Damon, so you get. Do you want to re-rank
I'm
anything?
happy with Damon. If I feel as though I may choose someone that would lower a rank, so I don't want to make Muzzy or Brandon feel bad.
Okay.
Nah.
So is that a no? Okay. All right. Okay, we did it. There it is. There's the hype list for this week. It may take a little bit of a breather after this. I won't. We will see.
The news.
Probably never hear from it again.
Maybe. But that is the news and various accoutrements for this week. Now we go directly from one list into another on the actual the list. Follow along in the paste bin below for both. This is the last week. What was Star Fox 64 was added? I remember. I listened to that episode. And where did Star Fox 64 get added? Maybe 40. I shouldn't say it out loud for Ills to not get upset. 40 out of 114. So how about that?
Well, I mean, it's just we just have a problem with GoldenEye. That's all I say.
All right. This week I get to add to the list. Whenever there's 3 people, you always have to ask yourself, am I going to be an absolute scumbag and try to go for a top spot, knowing a game that the 3 of us like? I'm not going to do that this week, but no, it's a constant looming threat for anyone that ever takes off. Saf has done it to me many times before. But instead, 2 things are happening this week. We got ourselves SGDQ, Summer Games Done Quick, and we got the release of Judgment. And so I want to talk about a game that is both very speedrun and also is made by the creator of Judgment and the Yakuza series. I forget his first name, but Mr. Nagoshi. Super Monkey Ball for the Nintendo GameCube. Have either of you played that?
Nope.
Dang it. Jesus. I knew this was going to be a problem. I had a list. Let me bring up the list. Because it was a whole thing.
So many lists.
So many.
It's true. So, really fast. I just want to give a shout out, though, to Super Monkey Ball. Watch speedruns of that game. It's good. And while we're also doing that, look up the blind Punch-Out speedrun from SGDQ this year. Super.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And it's on the list. It's the Wii Punch-Out. Let's see.
Have you played the Yakuza?
You know what? I figured it out. Have either of you played... You know what? We can do this one too. The collection just came out. Have either of you played Contra?
No.
I played Contra 3.
You know what? You play Contra 3,
No.
Zach? Either you guys play Uncharted 1.
Yes.
Of course, yes.
You did it. Uncharted 1, everybody.
Finally.
Oh, wow. All right.
This is the process that you miss every week whenever people are trying to pick a game for the list. So Uncharted 1 is a game by Naughty Dog. At that point known for Crash games and for Jak and Daxter. And this was like, hey man, we're not doing a platformer anymore. We're doing a shooter. We're gonna do an adventure game on an island. It's gonna be Indiana Jones. You ever hear of that film?
Yes.
But Uncharted 1 is an interesting game because it is very much the first of the series that has gone on to be a big deal, right? A very important part of Sony's first-party lineup for 2 gens, basically, at this point. But I would not say it's... 2 is where a huge leap was made, in I think most people's opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 is sort of, you can start to see the seeds of what could eventually become a pretty cool series, but there was, weird things like they had to throw in 6-axis, so you had to use the 6-axis to throw a grenade, or sort of the encounter design was a little simplistic. But I think there is something that is still fun about, especially at that point, going on an island adventure and having your old wisecracking buddy Sully and the rest of your crew, Elena, Nathan Drake. Those characters were still, I think, good even back then.
Right, and this was before they had like any kind of baggage that they were just fresh characters at this point, so you didn't have all these like winding fucking backstories of Nathan Drake's fucking back, like every moment of his childhood.
My brother's alive. Whoa. Here's how I met Sully. There was Helen Mirren there.
For some fucking reason.
And we never mentioned her. But, so I still think, I would not describe it as, like, a super great game, but I think it's still a pretty good game.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. Actually, I mean, it's not the best. It's obviously not the best of the series, but there's a reason why it inspired a lot of clones afterwards, like the Tomb Raider series, stuff like that. But
so
it has really like good climbing, has decent shooting.
Right.
The ending bits were a little rough.
The climbing
Yeah.
parts.
When the zombies show up, you're like, you didn't need to do this.
Yeah.
The climbing bits were a bit weird for me because they weren't really that. I can't remember if this was the first part.
As people like to complain about the lack of interactivity in the climbing bits, right?
I think that was I can't remember if I'm mistaken for the second one or first one, but yeah, it was kind of like hard to decipher like which ones are climbable, which one isn't, or which cliffside isn't. It's a bit weird for that front.
Yeah. Because in 2 they made it highlighted. They were like, here's everything is bright yellow that you can climb. They really made it obvious because I think people complained about the first game.
Right.
And I think that now people complain about climbing in games, but at the time it was like more of a new thing, right?
Yeah.
But where would I put it on the list is the question.
And for the time, it was. I mean, I understand that it was kind of hard to tell where you're supposed to go, but when you got going, it was kind of intuitive, like the climbing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. At least that's how I felt.
Where would I put it on the list, though? Here's the thing.
Here is the thing.
We enter this problem that we enter often on the list, which is that I don't know if I would put it above I think it's in the 30 the mid 30s range for me. I think I would put it below Fire Emblem Awakening, in my opinion, because I really like Fire Emblem Awakening. And the other thing would be Phoenix Wright, which is 5 spots below it. But
at that point, you're going to the 40s.
At that point, you're going to the 40s, right? That's the problem. So sort of where you guys feel. That's sort of my general range right now.
I think that's pretty
that
fair.
seems like a decent place to put it. Right about.
In that range, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
would you put it above or below Star Fox?
Below? No, not below. Shit. God.
I would put it below Danganronpa.
Sure, I think I would be fine with that.
Okay, that's fine. Danganronpa was a fun game.
Yeah, looking at it, because I think I would put Phoenix Wright above Kid Icarus is the problem. But as is the nature of the beast.
Wait. That's a muzzy.
Why would you put it below Danganronpa? Just out of curiosity.
I think Danganronpa had more to it story-wise. It had more stakes. Yeah. It felt like I felt more attached to the characters. Obviously, these are vastly different games, but the flaws of Uncharted were kind of gameplay. Some of the gameplay, and then some of the difficulty spikes later on in the game, like at the end of the game.
Yeah.
It kind of
for both of them to be their part ones, I think that Danganronpa, the later games, iterate on it in very interesting ways, but I think it's a stronger starting point for its series than Uncharted was for its series, where there was just more to grow. I don't know if I would hold it necessarily against it, but I think that when you put them side by side, I think that as a very first just sole experience, I enjoyed Danganronpa more.
Right, and Danganronpa had a lot of uniqueness to it, story wise, it had a really good character development.
Yeah,
and and very decent gameplay.
But I think it is worth shouting out, note where The Last of Us is and note where this game is. Naughty Dog had a hell of a PS3 generation, in terms of
growth,
improving themselves.
They mastered their craft with these kinds of games.
Yeah. So there it is. That I believe is at number 42 on the list. Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. Surrounding it, at number 40, Star Fox 64, 41, Danganronpa, Trigger, Happy Havoc, 42, as I said, Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, 43, Kid Icarus Uprising, and 44, Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective. Moose will be deeply offended at putting Drake directly above.
He's offended with any game above Kid Icarus.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, you put his name next to it.
I'm saying his name out. I'm going to give him the credit for the rank. That is the list for this week. That is the podcast for this week. If you would allow me this, if I could have the final phrase.
Of course.
No, you can't.
But
yeah, fucking go for it.
But I guess I don't need to think on it. I guess that's not the way I would phrase that. But anyways, plugs. We are on twitter.com/JumpUpSupercast, where we post whenever episodes go live every Monday for the Jump Up Supercast, every other Thursday for the Jump Up Supercast Game Club. This week you can hear on Thursday Skull Monkeys, a wild ride. A Noah choice for the Game Club, so which you always know is a wild ride.
Did you play it yet?
I'm a little 5 of 17.
Oh, boy.
And I'm
Good
sure
luck.
it will only get weirder from here. Who knows if I'll beat it? I'll try to. But either way, that will still be an episode you can listen to this Thursday. You can also, whenever we go live on twitch.tv, you can do that by following us there at twitch.tv/JumpUpSupercast. Moose was supposed to be streaming Croc and other games. His MacBook died, so he's not doing it as of now. But there might be other people that are streaming. I'm finally back from vacation, so maybe next week. But either way, that is the general plugs. And now, to close, I'm going to get a little sad. This week, if you follow Smash on community online or the Nintendo community online in general, you know that a man named Etika, Desmond was his real name, killed himself and committed suicide. And it is a thing that you would like to say was a shock in some ways, because but it wasn't, because there was clearly indicators that he had problems. And it sort of feels like whenever you know that something's wrong and things still don't change, there's a weird guilt that happens. But sort of in memory of that, in memory of him, and in honor of that, I would like to ask 3 things for the final phrase. First is that if you are feeling isolated, alone, depressed, or even suicidal, we'll have a link to a Reddit hotline in the description that will have contact for people who are trained professionally. This is what they do. And I know of people in my own life that are still around because of those hotlines. And then on a personal level, just call someone that you love, let them know that you care, and you don't even ask them if they're okay, just talk to them. I know there's a buddy of mine who was thinking about killing himself, but just a reply on a YouTube comment telling him that he appreciated him viewing his channel was what stopped him in that moment, right? So you never know what will make that difference. So there's no shame in extending a hand. And finally, as I've said, we say it often, the people that make the things that you watch, that you play, remember to treat them as people, not as memes. And when you see them, treat them as though they deserving of love and respect in the same way that you would anyone in real life. Because just because it's the internet doesn't mean it's not real, because when it gets too real, it gets very scary very fast. So with all that having been said, thank you all, and I hope you have a good week.